Hello chess lovers, welcome back to Endgame School. Last time we started a discussion about opposition and I mostly demonstrated ideas associated with the attacker, and briefly we looked at the defensive side of the opposition, but I thought that today I would elaborate on that a little bit more. And I'm intending to make this also very highly interactive, so we are going to go through this very famous study together in different stages. First up, the first thing I would like to ask you to do is to calculate the consequences of what happens if we play king g2, allowing black to just eat the pawns, and who is going to come out on top in that case. So first pause video, go through that line, tell me what you got. And I'm going to tell you now that king g2 loses miserably to king g4, king f2 takes, pass here, opposition, and the spare move decides the game to black favor. Now we are essentially in an exact same position or very similar to what we discussed in the previous video. Back to start. Now we realize that in order to survive this, we might have to sacrifice one or even two pawns. So your next challenge now is to try to figure out what happens if we sack the pawn with g6 takes, and then we start manipulating the situation with the king. Pause again. Calculate your line, try to come up with an assessment. Go. Now we realize that g6 takes and then any king move is still a failure, because king g4, king pass down here so I can oppose when they take the pawn, still allows the pass move for black with the pawn, resulting in opposition, meaning white has to move. I'm going to go in front of my pawn and win again, just like in the previous lesson. So the last challenge that we have now is to calculate the consequences of pawn push, takes, and then pawn push again. Do we have a draw there, or is it an entirely lost cause? Pause the video again and try to work out what you can work out there. And indeed, it also looks very grim at first sight, because after g6 takes, the kings are in opposition with white to move, which would indicate that we are losing. However, this is the first scenario out of the three that I showed you, or four, I don't remember, where the black pawn is on the 5th rank, and as a result of that, now black is deprived of a pass move. And so what we can do now is to slide towards f1 where the pawn wants to promote, king g5 to keep the distant opposition. And now after king f1, it turns out that it was actually really well worth luring this black pawn up all the way to here, because now black can't oppose with king f5, and any other king moves would be met by white opposing the black king, when the black king does, or rather the black side does not have a spare move left, because the pawn has marched up from the 7th to the 5th rank. So quickly a conclusion. Here we needed to lure the pawn out, so that after takes, f5 takes, even though we lose temporarily the opposition, but black actually can't claim it when it matters the most on the file where the pawn is. Now he has to move either front or behind, and either way white is going to claim the opposition, and with it the draw. So it turns out that this position is actually a savable position for white. There is an alternate version of this study where the white pawn is back on h4 and there is a black pawn on g5 and the king is still a square back with the same requirements. So you can have a look at that and find out if there really is just one way to draw it, or perhaps there are more. But that's going to be it for today. So this is a marvelous way, this particular puzzle or study or composition, to demonstrate the defensive side of the opposition, and what does it look like when it fails, and what does it look like when it succeeds. I hope that this was a useful lesson, despite of it being really short and sharp. Now we'll be back with more soon. Thanks for watching.